Buy or Sell is presented by the Robertson and Cox Real Estate Team. Looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? We've got your back. Centrally located in Radford, Virginia, the RNC team is proudly and professionally serving the New River Valley, Roanoke, and Southwest Virginia. With over 35 combined years of experience, we have all the knowledge needed to help you reach your real estate goals. Contact us today for all of your real estate needs. Visit rncteam.com to learn more.
What's up, Hokie Nation, and welcome into everybody's favorite show, Buy or Sell. Alongside our lead analyst and columnist, Chris Coleman. Across the way, managing editor David Cunningham. In the fourth chair, our founder and general manager, Will Stewart. And our director of media, Nick Brown, behind the scenes. I'm your host, Carter Hill, filling in for Giovanni Heater. Guys, final buy or sell of the season. It has gone by really, really fast.
Yeah, and 2025 so far is really cold. So.
Yes. January 2nd, 2025. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we got snow coming next week. So fingers crossed, fingers crossed. We got a lot to break down. Let's look at Virginia Tech, Virginia, and the results from a month ago. By the way, Andy Bitter's down in Charlotte, so he is not with us. Neither is Gio. But here's what we got. Okay, Pop Watson, 15 plus completions. Andy, David, Gio, the fans, they bought it. They were incorrect. Chris, Nick, and Will, they sold it. You guys were right. Congratulations. Ollie Jennings, 3 plus receptions. Andy, Chris, David, Gio, the fans, bought it. Incorrect. Will, the lone one to sell it. Congratulations. You were correct. Bashaw Tootin, 75 plus rushing yards. That was pretty much a gimme. Everybody bought it. They were correct. UVA scores 17 plus points. Everybody bought it except for Nick. And Nick, you were incorrect. They did score 17 points on the dot. Virginia Tech won it 37-17. Yes. Virginia Tech, Virginia combined for 4 plus passing touchdowns. Andy, Chris, Gio, Nick, Will, the fans, they sold it. David, you bought it. You're the lone one to get it incorrect.
What was that one?
It was Tech and UVA combined for 4 plus passing touchdowns. What was the actual number?
2.
2?
No,
2.
1?
2. No, it was 2. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, pop to Jalen Lane.
Over a month ago, so I really don't remember.
I was going to say, yeah.
One.
Pop to Jalen Lane.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
I guess
It
I
was
thought-
less than
I
4.
I've got the box score here. I've got the box
Yeah,
score
he's
here.
got the box score. It was less than 4.
Passing.
Well,
Musket
wow.
had none. Pop had 1. That's it. So just 1.
Just 1. Okay, by the way, Will,
That was a silly pick.
for the either second or third time this year, we've had a member of our crew go 5 for 5 in a singular week. So let's clap it up for Will Stewart. That was fantastic.
So here's the margin, right? Pop 15 or more completions.
Yes.
I sold it. He had 14.
I was going to say, I remember
It was really close.
for that episode saying to Andy, I was like, oh, so essentially he's going to play. And he pointed out a good point, like, wow, 15 plus completions is not a gimme. And clearly it was not. So Pop Watson performed well, but less than 15 completions.
UVA 17 points. They had exactly 17. Ollie Jennings, 3 or more receptions. He had 2. So a lot of this stuff was really close, and the margin of error on going 5 for 5 versus like 2 for 5 is very thin.
And that was coming off the game at Duke, in which Ali had 5 receptions.
Yep.
So you're thinking, okay, maybe 6. So you're thinking, okay, well, maybe he can do something. All right, time to look at the preseason lines. This is interesting. First time we've looked back at this since before the Vanderbilt game, and a lot of this did not come to fruition, but one that everybody got correct. Does Virginia Tech go undefeated at home? Everybody sold it. You guys were all correct. They did not go undefeated at home, actually. They lost to Rutgers and Clemson. Did I miss one, too? They've at least lost 2 games at home.
That was the 2. Yeah.
That was the 2? Okay.
Yeah, Clemson was a big reason everybody sold that one.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody sold it. Defensive linemen, 10 plus sacks. Andy, David, Andy, David, and the fans all bought it. You guys were correct. Chris, Gio, Nick, and Will, you guys sold it. APR finished with 15 and a half sacks. Is that correct? I don't have it in front of me.
That's a lot of sacks.
15 and a half. Virginia Tech is a team, 10 plus interceptions. Andy, David, they sold it. That was not correct. Chris, Gio, Nick, Will, and the fans bought it. They did have over 10 interceptions. Kyron Drones, 30 plus total touchdowns. Andy sold it. He was the lone one to get it correct. Chris, David, Gio, Nick, Will, and the fans all bought it. That did not happen. It did not get relatively close. Plus, he was banged up.
The right question should have been Kyron Drone's 30-plus leg injuries. I mean, that was he ended the season with literally 3 leg injuries.
He only had 16 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's
oof. Granted, didn't play in every single game, but
he had 10 passing touchdowns in 9 games played.
Right. He had 17 total passing touchdowns last year, just passing, not counting rushing. Yeah.
Virginia Tech finishes with 9+ wins. What do you guys think people said for this?
Everybody bought it.
Everybody bought it.
Man, was that optimistic?
Did not happen. It was optimistic, but it was realistic. So it did not happen, though. They went 6-6. So with that, here's our buy or sell standings through the regular season.
Hey, Carter, before you move on, let's add a little bit of detail here. APR had 16 sacks, and the Hokies had 14 interceptions as a team.
Okay. And yeah, Kyron Drones, 16 total touchdowns.
That was coming off a year where Tech struggled to force turnovers last year.
Yeah, yep.
I think that's kind of what Andy and I were
So that was a reasonable line.
And they did not turn Vanderbilt over in the opener. So it took until Marshall to start turning people over. So interesting there. Buy or sell standings through the regular season. The fans and Will are tied for the top spot, 50.8%. So the 5 for 5 week certainly helped you out.
Yeah, so that's 33 out of 65.
Correct, yes. Andy is in third, 49.2%. Chris, you're in fourth, 47.7%. David, 43.1%. Nicholas is 41.5%. And Mr. Heater is down in the basement at 35.4%.
Jeez, Gio.
So Carter, there are 4 people / groups all within 2 picks of each other. So the fans and I have 33 right. Andy's got 32. Chris has 31.
Okay.
So a lot of people are within range of each other going in the final pick.
Anybody's game. Let's get to this week's lines. Virginia Tech, Minnesota in the Duke's Mayo Bowl down in Charlotte. Virginia Tech, or check that. Both teams score 45+ points as a whole. Will, as somebody coming off of a 5 for 5 week, we'll start with you. Did you buy or sell it?
I am buying it because Virginia Tech is going into this thing undermanned, and the last time they did that, they gave up 54 points. You look at last year's bowl game against Tulane. Didn't Tech score 45 in that game?
41 maybe? Close to it.
41-20.
41-23, I think. So I just think that in a bowl game with players opting out, combining for 45 points is a no-brainer.
Yeah, very fair. What about you, David?
Yeah, I bought it too. I think Tech's offense will be able to do something. And I mean, if Tech scores 2 touchdowns, well, then you only need 30-ish from Minnesota, and I think Minnesota can put that up. Based on what I picked, I think that buying it was the correct option.
All right, Chris, what about you?
Well, I picked the final score to be 31-17. That adds up, so I bought it.
Nick?
I bought it. I, again, picked the over with this line with my pick, so I got to stay consistent. The official ESPN over-under was set at 42.5, but I looked at all of our picks for the game preview, and I said, I'll make it 45+ points because that was around what our average was. And that was about right because it was pretty split.
All right, Will, back to you for the fans.
So we're close to 1,300 votes in on the buy or sell article that we put on the website yesterday, and fans are combining for 45+ points, 57%. So it's fairly close, 57% to 43% fans buying.
Okay. Gio sold it. He was the only or one of the 2 to sell it, and the other one was Andy Bitter. So the 2 not here did sell that one, so maybe under 45 total points in Charlotte. 4 Tech players with 3 or more receptions. Chris, we'll start with you.
I sold it.
Okay.
I think you just haven't seen that happen very often this year in one game. And then you're going into this one with a couple of backup offensive linemen against the Minnesota defense that is, I believe, top 15 in pass defense. I think the going will be a little bit tough for the offense there.
All right, David.
So, Pop Watson, I mean, he's played 2 big games and has completed 26 passes, 12 against Duke and 14 against Virginia. That would essentially be every single one of his passes goes to, Like if he's completing 12 passes, they go to 3 goes to one person, 3 goes to
It's just to throw the same guys.
Yeah, like the math just doesn't add up. So I sold it. I think if Tech. I also don't know how much time he's going to have, how much protection he's going to have. So I just this is a game where I just don't know. It's like, really, are 4 guys going to have 3+ receptions? I sold it. I couldn't.
You have your doubts. All right, well, what about you?
I looked through all 12 of Tech's games, and I believe that only happened twice.
So you did your research.
Yeah, it's just not likely. So I sold it.
Okay, and then what about the fans?
Fans also sold it at a rate of 73%. So 3 out of every 4 fans are selling it.
Okay. What about you, Nick?
I bought it going against the grain. No real reasoning.
Somebody has
wanted to save the graphic.
A leap of faith.
Save the graphic. Gio and Andy also sold it. So they are 2 for 2 in selling it so far. Darius Taylor, Minnesota's running back with 125 or more rushing yards. Excuse me. Will, we'll start with you.
I bought it. This is a really good line by Nick. Taylor, I think, went over 125 yards 3 times. And to do that, he has to get a lot of carries. But in most of the games, he's, looking through the statistics, he's getting 15, 16, 17 carries. In games where he got a lot of carries, of course, he went over 125. So I bought it, not really feeling any confidence in it, though.
And then what about the fans?
79%. So the fans we call it hate clicking. They're all hate buying here. They think
they read my game preview is what they did.
True. Yeah, they read the game preview. What about you, Nick?
All right. Well, I'm going to ask you guys a question first. Who is the only running back against Virginia Tech this season to run for over 125 yards?
Oh.
Who's not Kamanungai? Who's
not the Marshall running back?
Nope. Only one. This is courtesy of Andy Bitter, by the way.
No, I have no idea.
Don't tell me yet.
Well, we can't have too much dead air here.
Oh, the Syracuse running back.
Nope.
What?
He
only made it in the 90s?
Was it Phil Maffa at Clemson?
It was Phil Maffa.
Really? Okay.
yeah.
And I set that line at, I think, 125 plus yards as well, and he barely got it. He was playing some late minutes in what was a very controlled game at that point, and I was very angry about that. But I sold that along with Andy because of that stat.
I remember the Kyle Monungai game for Rutgers. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's going to run for 150," and he went for like 60 something like that. So
no, it was the quarterback throwing that drag route.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm buying it. Virginia Tech's got their 2 best defensive linemen out. Inside linebacker play has been poor all year.
I remember now. That's why I bought it, because the linebacker play.
Sam Brumfield's not even going to play, so they're down a linebacker. Darius Taylor is an awesome running back, I'm telling you. He missed the first game. Here's your clue. He missed the first game this season against UNC with a hamstring injury. Never got healthy after that. He's healthy now. He went for over 100 in his last game. This is a guy who was a freshman last year, averaged 122 yards a game. He only played in 6 games, but he had 4 100-yard games, including a 200-yard game. He was just never healthy this year. He hasn't played in a month. He's healthy now against an undermanned Virginia Tech front. He's going to go off.
I'm so glad I bought it.
David.
I'm selling it.
Okay, you're selling it.
I think he's going to be healthy. But I think Tech does a better job than people think. I don't know. I kind of looked that up. I didn't find Maffa, but I was just like, Tech hadn't really allowed, Tech has allowed some rushing yards, but Tech hasn't allowed a lot to one guy this year. I mean, Tech's allowed a lot of big plays, and that I think might be the backbreaker. I think back to that Old Dominion game, right? Quarterback run for a touchdown, 50, 60 yards. You allow Taylor one of those big plays.
One of those,
Sure, yeah,
one of them, yeah.
One and you're toast.
Yeah.
But Tech has allowed a couple of them, but not really to the same guy over and over again.
David went to what Chris had just said. He said, "I'm going to sell it."
A lot of defensive players out. All those safeties
it's also hard.
too.
I can't change my.
You can't. No, you can't. No. Sam Brumfield is not playing. Yeah, very true. Andy and Gio both sold it, so they have sold all 3 picks so far for buy or sell.
Wow.
Minnesota. 4+ players throw a pass in this game. Are we going to see some trickeration? We'll start with you, David.
I bought it. Yeah,
Okay.
I clarified with Nick that this is between both teams.
Yes.
Both teams, 4 combined people throw a pass. I'm like, this is a bowl game.
Yep.
This is you might see 5 or 6 guys throw a pass. So I bought it.
I would love to see Peter Moore get to throw a pass in his final collegiate game. The guy has been around for 5 years, a 4-year starter. Let him throw a pass. Let him throw a pass. What about you, Chris?
They've tried to fake. They've tried to fake one with Moore before. I don't remember what game it
the
was.
Cole Nelson one last year in the weight game.
No,
That was a snap.
no.
the snap.
Moore threw. There was one. I want to say Moore tried to throw a pass once, but had to eat it. Andy would probably remember.
Andy would
Okay.
know, yeah.
But I think we asked, like we interviewed Peter Moore at one point and asked him about it. It was, I want to say it might have been like late in the season last year. Yeah, I'll have to look it up and get back to you.
Okay. What about you, Chris?
I sold it.
Yeah.
Random bowl
Random
game coin flip.
Okay, well, what about you?
No, I'm buying it, and my logic is similar to David's. So I think that Pop and Schlee are both going to throw passes in this game. So that's 2. The Minnesota quarterback is 3. It's a bowl game, man. There's always trick plays. There's going to be a 4th guy throwing a pass in this.
Yeah, it's a matter of whether or not Minnesota runs a trick play. Essentially is what the line comes down to me. Did you find something, David? No, still searching. I saw you point your finger.
What? Yeah, Peter Moore attempted a pass in 2021 against Richmond. He also,
I don't remember that.
yeah,
Well, I'm glad they busted that play out for Richmond.
But also,
Yeah, absolutely.
But he also, but technically, he also completed a pass on the fake field goal against Miami this year.
oh, good point.
But that doesn't go into the field goal. It was a field goal.
It was a field goal.
St. Germain.
Yeah, he was
was
a
a
holder,
pass.
and
Yeah,
he threw it. He was a shovel.
that's
pass.
right. It was a shovel pass.
Okay. What about the fans?
The fans are selling it to 71%, so fans don't think it's going to happen.
Speaking of passing, I would like to point out that former Virginia Tech quarterback Dylan Whitkey is on the Minnesota roster.
True.
If I don't know where he ranks on the depth chart, but if there are a certain number of injuries for Minnesota quarterbacks in this game, it could be a battle between both of Virginia Tech's 2023 quarterback signings.
Can you imagine if the Gophers just tried to sneak Dylan Wicke on the field for a punt? Brent would probably be like, Who's that lining up to punt? And then he throws a pass just like Bowling Green did. All right, Nick, what about you?
This one has me shaking in my boots the most after Darius Taylor because, like Will said, Colin Schlee is definitely going to throw a pass. Pop Watson's going to throw a pass. Minnesota's quarterback is going to throw a pass. And, all
Some
it takes is
random
one.
dude.
Yeah, all it takes is their starting quarterback to get hurt. And then, boom, you got a fourth quarterback or a fake field goal punt, which is definitely going to
Very
happen.
common in bowl games.
True.
So, I'm a little nervous, but oh well, I sold.
That may be your best line this week. That may be your best line. So, by the way, Gio sold it and Andy bought it. So, kind of coming down to the wire there. By the way, Buy or Sell is brought to you by the Robertson and Cox Real Estate Team. So, we appreciate them sponsoring as always. And we continue here with our final line. Virginia Tech runs 3 or more plays of 25 plus yards. David, we'll start with you.
I bought it. I'm kind of just a gut feeling. Like, I know this offense is a little bit hampered, but I mean, shoot, we've seen, even though they don't have Bashal Tootin and Kyron Jones, like we saw Jeremiah Coney, Colin Schlee, that offense against Syracuse do some stuff. I know this is a really, really good defense against Minnesota. I think Tech is just going to get it somehow.
Chris.
I sold it. Again, random coin flip.
Will.
I looked it up, and I believe that the Virginia Tech offense, rushing plays, passing plays, that they have something like 35 plays this year of 25 or more yards. Sounds like a lot. So they're averaging right around that many per game. I know the offense is depleted, particularly the offensive line. I optimistically bought it.
Okay. And the fans.
So this is 50-50. 51% of the fans are selling it, 49% are buying it. So really close.
Close one. What about you, Nick?
So I made this line against Miami. I think it was the exact same one. 3+ plays of 25+ yards. We all bought it except the fans. They sold it, and they got it right.
Okay.
That actually surprised me when I went back to the box score after that game and realized that Virginia Tech did not have 3+ plays of 25
That
yards.
PJ Prelo.
Yes, that would have been
penalty,
it.
That would have been going over. Yeah.
Or the Hail Mary.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. So there were like 2 or 3 plays that came back that that could have been it. So that one stunk. But I bought it just because, like David said, it's random. One busted run play or a screen play goes for 25 yards, and they'll figure it out.
That was the biggest thing on the line during the 7.5 minute review, whether or not that buy or sell line was going to hit.
I think Andy tweeted that out.
Did he
I
really?
think Andy
Did he
actually
really?
did tweet that out.
Yep.
This is the most important part of this whole call.
They were up there shaking in their boots. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Andy bought it. Gio sold it. Gio actually sold everything across the board. So we'll see how things transpire this week.
Well, hopefully everybody, considering Gio's in last, hopefully everybody's fading Gio this week.
So
This is a very diverse board, by the way.
Yes.
So
Will,
yeah.
you bought 4 of the 5 lines, so you're in good shape.
So more so than that, so like I don't have like again. There's 4 of us that are all close together. Me, the fans, Andy, and Chris. I don't have Andy and Chris's picks right in front of me, but looking here, I differ from the fans on 2 of them.
Okay.
So there is going to be some separation between me and the fans. Is Andy or Chris going to come up on the outside for the late win? We'll see.
Okay. So we're gonna have a recap podcast next week of the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Obviously, that's gonna be weather pending on some things here in Blacksburg. But I assume we're gonna go through buy or sell standings next week and kind of talk about the final. Okay, during the podcast. So, all right, guys.
Let's go over the game by game picks also next week.
Yes.
Those are really the only ones. that matter.
Yes,
Guess
yes.
what? 11-1.
I know.
Chris and I, 11-1.
If Minnesota wins next week, you guys are gonna go 12-1 on the
12-1.
season. That's like near impossible.
Those
what-
in the playoffs.
Will,
I know.
you need to look back.
I gotta look that
archives
stuff
and
up.
see like what the best. Pick. What the
used
best
to-
pick record was.
It used, like going way back, it used to be easy. Like Tech would go 10-2 every year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just pick them to win every game, and you're going to go 10-2.
The jury was out after Vanderbilt, I guess.
Well, this might be the most interesting. Like, if you look at seasons, Tech finished like within a game of 500. Like, I guarantee you, like most people did not pick 11 games correctly.
After they lost to Vanderbilt, and then, which was the only game David and I missed. After I picked them to lose to Rutgers, and they lost in pretty much the exact manner that I thought they were going to lose. I'm like, I know how I'm picking the rest of the year. I know exactly who this team is. And
Okay.
They just never changed.
Okay. All right. Plenty more to break down. Next week, again, bowl recap whenever we can do so, and then we'll go through buy or sell standings. So, David, you are heading down to Charlotte after women's hoops tonight, I believe.
Yep.
Chris, you are here.
I'm
I think.
co-hosting the Bear pregame tailgate show at McAdoo's.
Okay, McAdoo still. Yeah. With, who are you doing it with?
McAdoo.
Jamie Forrest.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
haven't been to McAdoo's in a while.
Will, are you going to the game?
I am not. I will be watching from home. I'm actually sitting here looking at staff picks from the past. And then the last 3 seasons, the best prediction record has been 9-4 by a couple people last year. The year before that, somebody went 8-3. The year before that, it was a bunch of 7-6s by TSL staff.
Okay.
So 12-1 is like over and above anything.
And then Nick, you're
Damn,
heading.
why'd you have to do it? I was supposed that should have lapped the field. Either one of us should have won this by a mile, but you know.
Well, you know what though? It's because we're on the same wavelength.
Exactly.
We're
True.
sitting here
True.
going, nope, not happening. And you know what's funny? What is Andy's picks record this year?
It's high up there, too, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, but he's
Hang on a second. I will tell you.
he's missed a couple because
So-
Andy likes to gamble just a little bit more.
So Chris and David are 11-1. Nick is 9-3. Will's 9-3. Andy's 8-4.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
So, but that's
Okay.
because Andy's been a couple times where Andy's like,
just
no,
trying
like,
to
I think
separate
against
himself.
Clemson, Andy was like, oh, like Tech's gonna win. Like Andy's gone out on a limb a couple times. Chris and I are like, no, we know
Sometimes-
exactly what's gonna happen.
Sometimes when
Syracuse.
predicting Virginia Tech football, it pays to be cynical.
Yes.
I remember.
It's a hate pick.
Quick side note. I know we got to wrap up. I remember driving up to Syracuse on a Halloween morning, and we were listening to, I guess it was the podcast, which was interesting. I was with Gio, and we were listening to the podcast. I had not listened yet, and you guys had both picked Syracuse to win the game, and it was right after, Chris, you had mentioned that I think Virginia Tech's the better team here. But I know that dome just gets you. And it went back to Andy, and he's like, you just said Virginia Tech was the superior team, but ooh, the dome. And
Yeah. Well,
And we all know what Will picked in that game. Yeah, but the funny thing is, that's a game where Andy
went against the grain.
and was wrong.
Yes.
And Chris
yeah.
and I were right. Yeah.
he's got the Aaron McFarlane riverboat.
You know, but
gambler.
the funniest thing is think about how many things had to go right or wrong in some cases for Virginia
I
Tech
know,
for
and
us
I
to
just
be right.
Exactly, and I just assume they're going to go wrong.
So
I mean, like that Hail Mary hits, and it's like, oh,
Yeah,
Virginia Tech doesn't play in the Dome again until 2029. So
I can't.
we
wait.
will tease the hell out of Andy when that game comes.
We got to get you up there in 2029, Chris.
To
Coleman's.
To Coleman's Pub.
We can head to
Coleman's
Coleman's.
Irish Pub. That's where I'll go.
Okay.
I don't want anywhere near that dome.
No, well, it's,
You just watch it there. I'll drive to Syracuse to watch the game in a bar.
Yep. Makes sense. Well, that's going to pretty much wrap it up. So we'll talk to you next week. For Chris Coleman, David Cunningham, Will Stewart, Nick Brown, I'm Carter Hill. Thanks for tuning in. Happy New Year. And we'll talk to you after the Hokies and the Gophers in the Duke's Mayo Bowl recap.